Well, apartment buildings with high vacancy rates, known as ghost towers, are not a new phenomenon in Australia. But recent data suggests up to 54,000 new apartments will be up for grabs in Sydney by the end of the year, creating yet more oversupply. An underperforming market with a lack of buyer activity is one reason, alongside the fact that some foreign investors buy properties to keep empty until value increases. Now, joining us to talk a little further on this story is Carl Fitzgerald, a property researcher at Prosper Australia, joining us from Melbourne. Thank you for your time, Mr. Fitzgerald. Now, has oversupply and under-demand caused this ghost tower phenomenon in the market, and what are the implications of it?
Well, this is the outcome of the build more houses philosophy that's been dominating policy circles for a number of years. So we shouldn't be surprised or alarmed by it, but really be asking if we're about to see the return on public policy from so many rezonings. Are these rezonings actually going to assist affordability or become another vehicle for more profit seeking in the development industry?
In terms of profit seeking, developers help control supply. Is that a double-edged sword?
Yes, well, it's hard to dig into the detail when it comes to apartments and see whether it's really the developers or property investors who have bought through pre-sales who are holding out on the market. So there is a question there of greater detail required, and that's something we're always trying to dig towards.
And what kind of regulatory safeguards are in place to keep this in check, or what more do we need to do?
Well, one of the big things that's happened in Sydney is that the government has increased the land tax threshold for property investors. So a few years ago that was sitting at around about $380,000. Now it's at $692,000. So that really gives a free pass to investors to hold property empty. There have been moves towards a vacant residential property tax and the like, but without the land tax backing that up as well, I'm afraid that we're going to see this ghost tower phenomenon to continue.
And on the topic of investors, how significant is the impact of foreign investors buying up properties and holding them empty and not selling them until the market comes up? What is the impact of that?
Well, they only control about 20% of investment properties purchased. So it's not a huge cohort, but it's one the media seems to have grasped onto. We're concerned, though, that overall it's a commodification of housing and the ability for investors to recognise that Australia's record population boom is going to drive people into their hands at some price or other. So it's a patience game for the property industry. Meanwhile, renters are just trying to survive.
Now, this isn't unique to Australia. Where else in the world are ghost towers a fixture, and what's been the impact there? How have other governments responded to this?
Yes, well, the most notable, of course, is China, which has some 65 million vacant apartments there. And government has put limitations on second purchases, demanding that investors have a 50% deposit and other kind of elements there to restrict that speculative demand. But really we need to switch the taxes off the productive sector and place them further onto real estate, because there are just so many big windfalls made. And it's not so much the sale of the apartment where the big windfalls are made, it's the middlemen jumping in between the land bankers who grab those sites and get the rezoning and sell them for many millions of dollars.
And where are we on the curve of the occupancy rate trend, and where are we heading?
Well, we feel that this market correction, we're probably halfway through it, so we'd be expecting that savvy investors will be buying up some of these ghost tower apartments and sitting on them for another couple of years, waiting for the market to return to its normal strength. So vacancies will head upwards from this point.
Thank you very much for unpacking this ghost tower phenomenon here with us on ABC News. Carl Fitzgerald, property researcher with Prosper Australia there.